Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Capone. I'm the Director of Graduate Admissions and Recruitment for Clarkson University. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening for our Bioethics Programs webinar. I'd like to start off with a little housekeeping first. Today's webinar will include an overview of the field, our program, the application process, and even cost. Should you have any questions along the way, please feel free to ask them in our chat box, and we will address them at the conclusion of the presentation. So please hang in there. With that said, we can begin the presentation. And let's start off first with telling you a little bit about who we are here at Clarkson University. If you're familiar with Clarkson at all, you're probably familiar with our Potsdam location up in the North Country. That is our main campus, home to several thousand undergraduate students, but we also have several other locations as well. We have mainly outside of Potsdam, our Schenectady location, which is really our graduate center and hub for all of the graduate programs that we have at Clarkson University. But we also have locations down in Beacon, as well as several other entities down in New York City, which actually is of note to this program since we also have a close working relationship with the Icahn School of Medicine in New York. And we'll touch base on all of that in just a moment. Now, one of the other things to keep in mind when looking at this map is the fact that we have a very vibrant online course offering plethora as well. So always keep that in mind when referring to Clarkson University. You might be referring to one of several different campuses or many, many, many different online programs. I'd like to also start off by introducing the individuals who are on this webinar with me today. We have Dr. Jane Oppenlander. Jane's on with us. Jane, do you want to say hello?
Hi. Nice to have you tonight.
There's Jane. She teaches several different courses in our bioethics program. She also serves as the Assistant Professor of Operations and Information Systems for the Ray School of Business and is also the interim chair of the Bioethics Department. So we really, really appreciate her joining us this evening. Along with Jane, we're lucky to have Dr. Paul Cummins. Paul, do you want to say hello?
Hi, good evening. Welcome to the webinar.
Paul is with us today from Maryland, believe it or not. It looks very sunny in the background. I've got to say I'm quite jealous. But Paul is a research assistant professor here at Clarkson, and he works very closely with Dr. Oppenlander. And he's also an assistant professor at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. So he brings a fantastic perspective to the program and also can give you a little bit of insight in both locations. So with that said, let's move things over to Paul. I believe we're going to start off with the very first slide and introducing bioethics as a whole.
All right, great. So to start, I'm not going to belabor this slide because if you're interested, you may have some background about bioethics, but some people might want to say bioethics is a subspecies of ethics, which is a subspecies of philosophy. I don't think that's true, and it really hasn't been true probably for about 50 or 60 years. In the 1960s, bioethics arose as a response to the revelation of things like research misconduct or transformations in the technology of healthcare or challenges to our natural environment. And so today, it represents a field that engages in the ethical issues that arise in the provision of healthcare, in the practice of medicine, in biomedical research, biotechnology, and environmental issues. And it's a multidisciplinary field. So I think one of the things that is true of the development of bioethics is the way in which people from a variety of backgrounds, whether they're academic, like people doing theology, people doing psychology or sociology or history, came into bioethics, but also professionals, so nurses, physicians, research scientists, public policy professionals all came into bioethics to lend their perspectives. And today it represents a truly multidisciplinary field that works together to navigate the plurality of values that characterize our society as they engage with the issues that arise in all of those areas of focus and interest. So what's the bioethics program? The bioethics program has existed for over 20 years. It was one of the first master's programs that provided graduate training in bioethics that had a significant online component. And so for 20 years, we've been partnering with instructional designers at our legacy affiliations, where it began at Union College and evolved to Union Graduate College, and then in a merger with Icahn School of Medicine and eventually Clarkson University. We rely on instructional designers at those institutions to help us deliver education that's at the cutting edge. And so we've been doing this for 20 years. Clarkson and Mount Sinai partnered together to deliver a educational program that takes the best of both institutions and the high quality of faculty at both institutions to provide training across 3 different specializations. So you can specialize in clinical ethics, so the ethics that arises in the provision of clinical care to patients; research ethics, that's the ethics that arises in both human subjects research and bench science research that also involves animal research; and policy. So the design of policies that will affect the health of communities. And so an example of that would be people who worked on the New York State Task Force for Health and say designed the ventilator allocation policy that New York put into effect during the height of the COVID crisis. And so our aim in providing these specializations is to allow seasoned professionals who want to expand their knowledge of bioethics issues and expand their area of practice, to give them opportunities to learn more and to add more to their CVs so that they can expand their services within their institutions. And it's also designed to provide educational opportunities to young professionals starting out or recent college graduates who want to develop a background in that area so that they can build a career in bioethics. So this slide covers the same ground that I just spoke about, but we have students from across the spectrum of their careers and across the spectrum of interests. So we have physicians, we have nurses, we have lawyers, we have research scientists, we have academics who already have a terminal degree in another field who study with us. And we have policy experts who work for government who want to understand better the bioethics field, who come to work with us and are able to study with us because of our robust online offerings. And we also have young people who are just graduated from college and either developed an interest in bioethics and want to enhance that, or in particular want to improve their credentials for graduate programs. So we might have students who are looking at law school and they think a bioethics degree will enhance their application, especially if they want to focus on healthcare law. And we also have a number of recent students who came to study with us and then went on to study at medical schools. So we provide an education that can promote a number of interests and goals that people have. And some of these people, as I said, are early in their careers, mid-careers, or we even have a lot of people who are transitioning to the sort of last part of their career before retirement, and perhaps they want to get out of clinical care and they want to get into more of the ethics service or ethics teaching at their institutions, and that is something we also service. So we offer multiple ways to study bioethics. So one of the main options is the master's degree. And this is a 13-course sequence that provides a real solid foundation for expertise in bioethics. And as we said, in a number of specialties. But in addition to the master's degree, we have a short certificate 4 courses that allows people to develop a kind of base of knowledge that allows them to perhaps get into some service opportunities in their institution. And they can do that all within a short amount of time when they do the certificate. So we have both these options, and many students start in the certificate and find that they want to go deeper into bioethics and transition into the master's degree. So what does doing the master's degree look like? As I said, it's a 13-course sequence. Each a course is typically 3 credits. We do offer a number of half-course electives for 1.5 credits. But so if you took full 3-credit courses, you'd take 13 courses with us. 10 of those courses are taught in an asynchronous online format with experts who are recognized as experts in bioethics. And those courses can be done basically according to a schedule that suits your personal and professional obligations, but within certain modules. So typically a module lasts a week. So basically any time within the week you can complete the learning activities for the week, whether that's in the morning before you start work or in the evenings after work. And so as I was saying, most of the education is online, but we have 3 intensive on-site weeks that we think are really important to your bioethics education. So we have a 1-week on-site pro seminar, which is a bit like an orientation to bioethics. It provides an intensive foundation. Can we go back a slide, Dan? And helps you to get to know the faculty and other students in your cohort. Either at the midpoint or end of your training, we have a 1-week on-site practicum for research ethics and clinical ethics, which is conducted at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. And that provides on-site exposure to a clinical setting through the hospital or through a major biomedical research institute through the medical school. And so you have visits to animal laboratories, IACUCs, institutional animal control committees, to an IRB, and then a number of hands-on activities. Same thing for the clinical ethics. You do clinical rotations and then have a number of on-site hands-on activities that also involve the use of our simulation center at Mount Sinai, where you engage with standardized patients who are basically Broadway actors who are supporting themselves through working as standardized patients. And then we have an intensive capstone course which is essentially an evaluation course. And that is where you are tested on your mastery of bioethics in a week-long course. So now that you sort of understand what's involved in studying, how long will it take to finish? It is doable to complete the degree in 1 year if you study full-time by taking 3 courses per quarter. We're on a quarter system in the bioethics program. And that is typically done if you're full-time. So very few working professionals take that option. Usually it's our post-baccalaureate students who take that option. Most of our students are taking the program part-time, and they take 1 or 2 courses per quarter. Some take 1 course per quarter, but many students, many are working professionals, and they typically take 3 years. They take their core courses in the first year. They take their specialization courses in the second year, and then they work on their master's project and complete their capstone at the end of the 3rd year. So as I said, we're on a quarter schedule. Quarters are 10 weeks with for instruction, and then 1 week for a final exam. So what does the curriculum look like? As I mentioned, there are core courses. So we have 3 core courses in biomedical ethics, healthcare policy, and bioethics in the law. These courses are included in our curriculum because the American Society of Bioethics and Humanities has identified these as core competencies for bioethicists. Then we have specialization courses and electives. So for each specialization track, whether you're a master's or bioethics student, there are specific specialization courses to give you a foundational knowledge in your specialty. And then there are electives that are used to round out your education so you can get in more depth in a particular area of that specialty. And then we have online and on-site practica. So the online practica start to introduce you to how to apply that foundational knowledge that you've received in the core and specialization courses. And you continue that with the on-site practica when you come to Mount Sinai and have the in-person exposure as well as the interactive training exercises. We also do a master's project for master's students, and that is a personalized project. And it doesn't have to be a traditional academic thesis. It can be a research project, or it can be an institutional policy that you're working on, or even if you're looking to get into the teaching space, the design of a course. But we are flexible in the kind of project that we allow you to develop to establish your expertise, and we use it as a jumping off for your professional identity and career as a bioethicist. And during that time, you are mentored in that project by a subject and content area expert in the master's project, so you don't do it alone. And then finally, as I said, there's a capstone seminar at the end, right before graduation in June, where you come first to Mount Sinai and then to the Capital Region campus in Schenectady for intensive examination of how well you've mastered your specialization in the master's degree program. What does the certificate look like? So the certificate is really designed for people who are asked at their institution to take on some sort of ethics-specific role and feel that they need some specialized training in order to discharge those responsibilities well. So it could be a hospital administrator or a chaplain or a research administrator who is now being asked perhaps to serve on an ethics committee or IRB or on a policy design committee at an institution. And they say, you know, I want to provide this service to my institution, but I really need a better background to do it as well as possible. And so we offer short 1-year graduate certificates, 1 course each quarter, that allows you to build a foundational knowledge in those specialties so you can discharge those responsibilities well. And basically you take 1 course in the fall, 1 course in the winter, 1 course in the spring that are 10-week courses, and then you take the practicum at the end, which is an intensive 1-week course. And so basically over about 39 weeks, you get a graduate credential in bioethics. And at the end of that, you can fully convert those to master's degree credits if you want to extend your certificate into a master's degree. These are the specializations for the graduate certificates. If you want to take the clinical ethics certificate, you take a foundational theory and background course in clinical ethics. Then you do an online practicum. You take a course in bioethics and the law, and then you take the on-site practicum in clinical ethics. The health policy and law certificate has 4 online courses. It has the 3 ASBH core courses, and then 1 specialty course from any of the courses listed below. And that credential is the 1 credential in the bioethics program that is doable entirely online. And then there's also the research ethics certificate. So there are two foundational knowledge courses, Research Ethics 1 and 2. There's the online practicum in research ethics, which starts to transition that into application. And then again, the on-site practicum. And again, all of these courses are doable in essentially 39 or 40 weeks because the on-site practica typically take place in the final week of the spring quarter.
I'd like to spend a little bit of time telling you about some of the things that our faculty, alums, and students have been doing most recently with bioethics during the current COVID crisis. Clarkson has provided a number of webinars on various topics related to COVID that will be of service to the community. Along with Professor Williford, who's one of our instructors, we gave a webinar on the role of epidemiology in today's global pandemic. Eva is a research scientist at the New York State Department of Health, and she's also an instructor for us teaching managerial epidemiology. A similar seminar series by Rosamund Rhodes, who's our associate director. She's also the director of medical bioethics education at the Icahn School of Medicine. And she's been very active during this pandemic period. She led the development at Mount Sinai of the policies to address the demand for medical resources such as ventilators, which we were concerned about early in the pandemic. She also presented those that work for one of our Clarkson seminars. And she was a panelist on morale and moral psychology during the COVID pandemic. Another one of our faculty who has been very active during this last period is Eileen Willits. She's the IRB chair, that's the Institutional Review Board, and institutions where research is done have these boards that review research programs and studies for the protection of human subjects. And she is the IRB chair at the Icahn School of Medicine. And as she writes to us, they were very busy. And you can read this at your leisure, her description of what they've been doing, but she and her committee were very busy reviewing and prioritizing night and day research proposals for COVID research so they could bring those as quickly as possible to the laboratory to hopefully come up with treatments, prevention, and ultimately cure for the virus. Another of our alumni who's been quite active during this period is Dr. Patty Mayer. She's an alum from the class of 2009, and she's the director of clinical ethics for the Banner Gateway Medical Center in Arizona. And she was instrumental in developing the triage planning, similar to what Professor Rhodes did at Mount Sinai for her institution. And in fact, she was a key advisor to the state government in Arizona on the COVID response. And finally, one of our students. We had a number of our students who were studying while they were also serving as first responders in the COVID crisis. One of our students studying this spring is an internist at Mount Sinai Hospital, and she cared for patients on the COVID units. And she applied her bioethics training there to support patients and their families as difficult decisions were made. And at your leisure, you can read her brief description of the work that she did on those COVID units. We also offered some academic courses this summer that were related to COVID. Two of them in particular, Contemporary Issues in Bioethics, which is ongoing now, and Paul is teaching that. This focused on the ethical issues, it is focusing on the ethical issues that are related to COVID. Paul, do you want to add anything more about the course at this point?
It just started today, since it's a half course for the summer. And I don't want to say I'm excited to be giving a course about COVID, but I already had an email from a student who's an academic at a university in Virginia who's been writing about COVID, and she said that she has already revised one of the articles that she was working on to incorporate some of the reading assignments that I had selected for this course. So, you know, it might seem like this is academic right now to a lot of people to talk about this, but a lot of this work really is making a difference in people's lives during this terrible time.
I would add, thank you, Paul. I would also add to that, we completed in the spring quarter the managerial epidemiology class, and we quickly, in a couple of weeks, revised that curriculum to incorporate more COVID-related information. And it was interesting because we would be using studies in that class right as they were being published and made accessible to the broad community. And not only that, by doing the webinars for the Clarkson and larger community, we were able to help people get a better understanding of some of the things they were hearing, some of the measures like case fatality rate, other things, other epidemiological terms, and hopefully we were able to give people a better knowledge and understanding to consume the enormous amount of media coverage that had been going on and it's continuing to go on during this pandemic. Another half course that we just completed was a special topics course. It's the ethics of genetic research. And this has a relation to COVID in that there are genetic techniques that we're using to try to develop therapeutics and vaccines. And you'll see listed here some of the topics that were covered during that course.
Thank you, Jane and Paul. I'd now like to take a moment to tell everyone a little bit about our graduate admissions requirements. The bioethics department has done a fantastic job of really streamlining the process for all of our applicants. Our application form is right online. If you go to gradapply.clarkson.edu, you can access our free application. We are waiving all application fees in this time of COVID, just as a response to what's going on in the world today. Outside of the application, we do also ask for a statement of purpose, which is basically why you, why us, how can we help you get to where it is you want to be? So it's going to be definitely very beneficial for you to look into the program and kind of tie that into what you're looking to accomplish once you're complete, whether that be a promotion or a new job, whatever it may be. We're also looking for a resume or CV up to date, please. That definitely helps. Transcripts. Now, this is a kind of a sticking point for some students, especially if you've been at several different schools throughout your undergraduate or even graduate career. We do not require immediately official transcripts to be submitted. You can actually get unofficial copies uploaded into your application as a form of initial review. So please feel free to log on to those old websites that you may still have access to from your undergraduate school, pull off an unofficial transcript, and we can utilize that for the, for right now in terms of getting you an academic decision. Next, we have 3 letters of recommendation, and generally those come from people who have really worked with you in a supervisory type setting. If you have any questions on that at all, you can always reach out to my office, and I'll do a cheap little plug here for my email address. It's graduate@clarkson.edu, and I'll share that in a moment. But again, if anything that comes in, my team and I will immediately respond to you and give you everything that you need. Outside of that, we do not require standardized test scores. I do happen to get a lot of questions about this, whether it be GRE or GMAT scores or PCAT scores that we need, and we don't require those for entry into the bioethics program. And typically, overall, once all of this is complete, you should be receiving a response on your application within 2 or so weeks. Sometimes it can be a little longer depending upon the busyness of the semester, but generally within that 2-week window, you can definitely expect something back from us. And if you don't happen to hear anything, you can always reach out to us, and I'll be able to take a look at your file and let you know exactly where you stand. Right here, I just wanted to give everyone a quick understanding of what to expect once they do access our free online application. And basically, it's very simple to set up the application. Basically, it's just like setting up a brand new Facebook account or a new Twitter account. It's all of your basic information, you know, who you are, and then outside of that, we have your checklist of materials that are all listed out there for you. One of the most important things I'm always asked is, well, you know, this all sounds great. You have a phenomenal program. I can meet all the requirements in terms of getting you all of the necessary information, but what do you cost? The cost per credit right now for the bioethics program for academic year 2020-2021 is $9.98 per credit. Now, most of the classes are 3 credits, so please just keep in mind that overall you're talking about $29.94 per course. Now, with that said, there are several 1.5 credit courses that we do have, which of course would then be half that cost at about $1,500, $1,497. Now, there is the possibility that some merit-based and employer discounts may be available to students, and this you won't typically know until you get through the application process. So if you're interested in at all in anything we've had to cover with you today, please make sure you go ahead, submit the application, get in all of that information that we require, letters of recommendation, resume, transcripts, all of that good stuff, because once we receive everything and we get it in for review, that's when we can start talking to you about the actual out-of-pocket cost that you should expect moving forward. So again, as I said earlier, I'd be sharing my contact information. Feel free to reach out to either this phone number or this email address that's listed on the screen. Just so that everyone knows, I am the direct, quote unquote, recruiter for the bioethics MS and advanced certificate programs. So you'll be working with me directly. So you'll have my ear as the Director of Graduate Admissions and Recruitment should you have any questions or concerns. So I'll be more than happy to kind of walk you through the process if need be, or get you to either Paul or Jane if there are some questions you may have that are more curriculum focused. So at this point, if anyone has any questions, and we'll hold for a bit. I don't see any quite yet in the chat box, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. And I know Jane and Paul are available as well for any questions you may have about the program. So we'll just give it a moment to see if anything populates. All right, well, it's looking like Jane and Paula, you two were both extremely thorough in your coverage of everything. And I want to thank you again for joining me this evening on this webinar. Oh, hey, we actually have one question that just came through. Julia Barlow, she actually asks, can you please explain the typical student? So typically, Jane, Paul, what would you say the makeup of the traditional student in the bioethics program would be? Are they mostly mid-level career or whatnot?
So one of the things I love most about teaching in the bioethics program is how varied the background of our students are. So we have young people, mid-career people, and late career people who've come to bioethics. I'd say that it's not more than half, but I think like the majority of students are mid-career. So it might be like 45% of our students are mid-career, and 25 are at the beginning of their career, and 25 are sort of late career who are looking to transition out of what had been their career before. So if you're a young person thinking about this program, I think you will find, people at the same level in your courses with you, but you'll also find people who have sort of the experience of a career. But I think both of those perspectives lend value to the educational offering. The seasoned professionals can provide advice and mentoring to people and connections. And often the young students can remind those seasoned people of the idealism that they had at the beginning of their career. So it works for both. I see there's another question, Dan? Or Jane, did you want to add anything?
Oh, you've covered it. That was great, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, we actually have two more questions here. The next question would be just about deadlines. Now, we just had a class that just started today, but when would be the very next opportunity for an individual to apply to the program and look to enroll to take part, hopefully, this coming semester?
So our applications are rolling, and you can join the program at the start of any one of our quarters. And the fall quarter I don't know the exact date. It's early in September.
September 9th is
September
first day
9th
of fall quarter.
is when the fall quarter starts. So before that, but you can join the program at any point right before the beginning of a quarter.
Right. So we accept students into the program at the start of each quarter. So if you miss for fall and you want to start winter, you can start in winter. But we don't need that long to process an application. So if you're thinking about submitting for the fall, I wouldn't delay, but it's not like the deadline is passed. We're on a rolling admissions schedule.
And I would reinforce that too from the admissions side of the house, in that it doesn't take all too long for you to necessarily get all of the necessary documentation in order to complete an application. Like I said earlier, the application is all online itself. That can be submitted in probably about 15 or so minutes. Outside of that, we just need a written, updated resume, a statement of purpose, why you, why us, how can we help you get to where it is you want to be, tying it back into the program. Usually that's about a page. And then your transcripts, which can be unofficial. So if you're able to get those 4 items, and we do realize it takes a little bit longer to get letters of recommendation, but if you can get those 4 items in, within a couple of weeks, you should be really setting yourself up well as your letters of rec are working on their recommendations for you. So I would have to say it's not unusual that we're not busy towards the beginning of the start, as a lot of our programs with the rolling admissions type of deadlines do get a lot of student interest right along the beginning of the start term. We have another question here, which I think is great. First, it's kind of two-parter. First and foremost, we're just wondering what really sets Clarkson University's bioethics program apart from other master's degree programs that are out there, like NYU, Columbia, Loyola, Chicago. And then about how many students are we seeing in each cohort?
I'll start to answer the question about what sets us apart. I think there are 2 things that set us apart. We are focused as a competency-based, skills-based program that prepare you with the necessary theoretical underpinnings and the specializations and the skills to go on and practice bioethics in either the clinical setting or in a research or policy setting. The second thing I would say is, in the online setting, we've been doing this for 20 years online, and we've had the benefit of working with instructional designers. And so our delivery methods for our curriculum are up to date, and our faculty is well versed in the online environment. Paul, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Those are all great programs. And as Jane said, I think they offer something different for everybody. But I think what's unique is the high quality faculty that provide the robust and solid theoretical footing, but then the opportunities for learning to apply that practically through our practica, both online and on-site. And especially the on-site practica, I think, is one of our strongest course offerings for people interested in clinical or research ethics. And those specializations as well, right? The fact that we are able to prepare you for specific different career trajectories in bioethics makes us a unique program and a unique value for students.
And then the last piece to the question, since it was a two-parter, was just about how many students typically enter per quarter, per term, per year. Just overall idea, ballpark.
So I think we admit probably or enroll probably 10 students between the or 12 students between both the master's and certificates. So some of our students who enter as certificate students convert to masters. So we can't say like we have at the start of an academic year 10 master students, but it might be at the end. So 10 to 12. So it's small classes, high faculty to student or low faculty to student ratio, and a real personalized experience because of that.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So I'd like to take an opportunity right now to again thank you, Dr. Cummins and Dr. Oppenlander, for joining me tonight on this webinar. And again, for the participants in today's webinar, please feel free to contact us at Graduate Admissions with any questions or concerns about the Bioethics MS degree program or the Advanced Certificate program. We're more than happy to help you however we can. And again, thank you all, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.